is called My Last Will and Testament. Long before I discovered Tommy Annan Forson, Komla Dumont, and a career in broadcasting, I had a very different dream. I wanted to be Sam Jonah. My friends and I used to sit around on hot afternoons dreaming of the things we would do if we had Sam Jonah's money. I would buy 7 Rolls-Royce Phantoms in different colors, one for each day of the week. I would buy a Gulfstream jet, take out all the seats and put a jacuzzi in it. I would never wear one shirt twice. I would own an island where only pretty women with beautiful butts would be allowed citizenship. Yeah, I had a lot of plans for Sam Jonah's money. But for some reason, God never saw fit to send any of it my way, which is why today I'm forced to invest in a washing machine instead of simply throwing out my shirts after one wear. Poor me, right? Recently, I've been reading about Thomas Edison. Many argue that he's the greatest inventor that ever lived. Throughout the 20th century, the man who invented the light bulb also created 1,092 other patents. In 1928, the United States Congress awarded him the Congressional Gold Medal, and in the citation, they valued all his inventions at the time to be worth a whopping $15,599 million US. Now imagine how many airborne jacuzzis and big booty islands I could have bought with that money. Again, rather tragically, Edison didn't leave any of his cash to me, but he did bequeath 1,093 solutions to mankind's everyday problems, including the cement mixer, the electronic pen, the alkaline battery, and thousands of important devices that we still use today. You know, last night I was thinking about great men like Thomas Edison and Sam Jonah. It occurred to me that their greatness is never in how much money they make or their bank balances. It's all about their legacy, what they leave for future generations. The reasons why they will be remembered are not much to do with how they spend their money, but how they spend their lives. Great people have come before us. Kwame Nkrumah, Nelson Mandela, Alexander Graham Bell, Mother Teresa, Winston Churchill, Yasantua, Martin Luther King, Maya Angelou, Michael Jackson, Esther Uklu, Leonardo da Vinci, Komla Dumont. Each of these people left the world better than they found it. Their contributions to the advancement of the human race will abide for generations, and the fruits of their hard work will be enjoyed by humans for all time. Just like Thomas Edison, they all left us their very own light bulbs, which will never stop glowing long after they themselves are no longer with us. You know, Uncle Ebo White once talked about how great inventors and composers performed miracles. He also threw us the challenge of performing our own personal miracles by simply giving our very best always. I want to extend that challenge by adding this: leave a mark, be remembered. Whatever you do, whether you are a cleaner or a CEO, a receptionist or a reverend, a driver or a director, a painter or a president, everything you do should be geared at making your world a better place. Whatever talent God gave you was meant not just for you, but for the benefit of the world. Failing to achieve your potential in life means you aren't only cheating yourself out of greatness, you're cheating all those who came before you, who worked hard to leave you a better world than they inherited. You are also cheating future generations of the gifts God placed within you. You are cheating all generations of mankind when you withhold your light bulb. Personally, I want everyone in this world to benefit from the fact that I was here. But even if I become the richest man in history, I won't be able to give each human being enough money to change their lives. The only meaningful thing I can leave that will benefit all mankind is my legacy, my example, my very best effort. That's the only real inheritance of value that I have to give. My dear friends, excellence is a debt we owe, and we must not pass through this life without paying our way. Your gifts, your skills, your knowledge, your strength, your abilities, these are not yours to keep. They are yours to share. So let your deeds and your work be a legacy that lasts long after you have departed. That is true greatness. And if along the way you acquire a Rolls Royce or two, even better. My name is Kojo Yankson, and just as Komla Dumo left me a microphone, Thomas Edison left me a light bulb. So when my own voice carries forth through the airwaves, my own light must shine forth through the ages. Good morning, Ghana.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the AM News with me, Mapita Sibili. Now on our first story, a member of the Supreme Court panel which heard the 2020 election petition has defended the dismissal of John Mahama's petition. The Apex Court in March said the National Democratic Congress flag bearer failed to prove that no candidate got more than 50% of the votes cast and therefore affirmed the declaration of Nana Akufo-Addo as outright winner of the presidential poll. Speaking at a high-level stakeholders forum to review the 2020 polls and its aftermath, Justice Gertrude Tokono said the court's calculation when dealing with the election petition showed that the EC chairperson only made an error during her declaration and that President Akufo-Addo got more than 50% of the votes cast.
Not based on the data in the declaration of the first respondent, the second respondent got more than 50%. Our holding is that there is no doubt that in providing particulars of the votes cast, the chairperson of the first respondent announced the figure 30,434,574 when she was referring to total valid votes cast, which was in actually 30,121,111. So the video sent to us showed that she had said that after she had listed all the valid votes for each candidate, she had said on the premise of the total votes cast, these people got these percentages. And so it was the case of the petitioner that if she had said total votes cast, then the court should use the total votes cast to recalculate the percentages. So the petitioner questioned the validity of the declaration, and we said yes, she had made an error in describing the total votes as total valid votes because they are different figures. But from the evidence on the record, it could be seen that the petitioner had built his case around the figure of 30,434,000 that had been erroneously announced as the total valid votes cast. But the evidence also showed that after she detected the error in announcing the figure of 30,434,000 as the total valid votes, the error was corrected the next day in the press release. Clearly, the petitioner recognized that the total valid votes were 30,121,111 and not 30,434,574. And on the basis of that, from all the evidence, there's no legal basis for anyone to contend that a different figure of 30,434,000 should be used as the total valid votes. So it was all about those words in measuring the more instruments. That's it's prima facie evidence. And so we looked at the legal import of that constitutional direction of prima facie evidence. And using Article 297 and Section 22 of the Interpretation Act, we appreciated that if a public officer corrects their mistake, it is supported by law, because this is what Section 22 provides, where an enactment confers a power or imposes a duty on a person to do an act of faith of an administrative or executive character or to make an appointment. The power may be.
Now, Chief Justice Kwesi Nyaboa wants judges to be open-minded when interpreting the Constitution and not stick to technicalities. Speaking at the Re-Akoto lectures organized by the Ghana School of Law, he encouraged Ghanaians to remember their responsibilities to the Republic. His speech was read by a Justice of the Court of Appeal, Sir Dennis Ajay.
The celebration of Akoto Memorial Lectures is to remind the courts not to be pedantic in dealing with the Constitution. and any application or interpretation of the Constitution which will impede its singular growth, must be avoided.
Government has also announced a ban on all exploration and prospecting for gold in forest reserves effective Friday, April 30. Also, all reconnaissance licenses granted by the Minerals Commission have also been banned. Lands and Natural Resources Minister Samuel Abu Jinapo announced the new directives at Jubilee House Wednesday.
Having the opportunity, I'll just seek to clarify just one or two things which are already in the public domain, which is that under the instructions of the President, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources is issued policy directives in respect of forest reserves. There's been a bit of confusion about it, and I thought this is a good occasion to clarify. The first directive the President got us to issue is that moving forward, the Forestry Commission should not issue forest entry permits for purposes of mining in forest reserves. The process is such that the final permit one requires in order to be able to mine in a forest reserve is a forest entry permit. The President got us to issue this instruction, which says that no more issuance of forest entry permit. And so, as from I think about 2 weeks ago, there cannot be fresh mining in forest reserves. If you've had a mining lease, you've had a forest entry permit before this instruction was given, you are not affected. So the directive doesn't take retroactive effect. But from now onwards, if you get a mining lease and you go to the Forestry Commission, the door is shut. So that's the first instruction that has been given.
Daily shortage of water is fast becoming the norm in parts of the Tema metropolis, which have been battling the challenge for ages now. Residents say an announcement of more disruptions to the already erratic supply of the utility by the Ghana Water Company Limited last week has worsened the situation. They say they're forced to either buy water from private suppliers at exorbitant prices or travel several kilometers to draw water from wherever they can find it, and want government to intervene immediately to deal with the situation. Manuel Kwanting spent the day there and now reports.
Even though Ghana met the drinking water target for the Millennium Development Goals 5 years ahead of the 2015 deadline, access is still not uniform across the country. While rural areas are easily suspected to have the challenge, some residents in peri-urban areas are also affected. A typical example, Tema New Town in the Tema metropolis and its environs.
I bathed with only 3 cups of water this morning. There's no water here.
5 days bobo ya flag ya ne mono ya foe oka wo mi oka nja mono bobo ya owo oka nja o ya lo.
They use the tricycles to get the water from other communities. The situation is even worse up the hill.
According to the residents, this challenge, which has existed for years, only got worse after scheduled cuts in the already staggered supply from the Ghana Water Company Limited. The Skinky Seller's shop has been closed for days.
The taps haven't been flowing for over a week now. I just want to buy these gallons of water. One costs 1 cedi 50 pesos, so I couldn't even open my shop today.
15 cedi, 1 cedi 50 pesos.
With gallons lined up in front of every household, tricycle riders are the biggest gainers of the situation.
So ba fence en kubunsi mo de tumba kubumo. Na so e charge o. Oh, and your customers. Ejuman de ni na customers.
We supply the water at a charge. Today, I've supplied more than 150 gallons. So when they call us, we go and pick them up.
Oh, so the day, me the mean kaba to me 500 gallons a day. And because we are to 40 gallons, we get to 60. But magazine what I say, because on the program choose to almost 150.
For those who cannot afford to pay, they travel several kilometers to fetch milky water from this dugout.
It's like a gutter. It's been over a month since the taps were closed.
For some weekends today, the water is not more coming where that's why it becomes like washing. Some to use to bath, but you cannot use it to cook because there is salt inside, that's why. And this thing, there are small, the animals, bacteria inside. So that one you can use it to wash, but you cannot use it to cook.
Since last 2 weeks, water has become a problem to us, and this is the place we have been washing. Some have been fetching water to their homes. Oh, the water is not clean, and we don't know where the water is coming from. Mayam is one, Bankuman, Abonko, Awudum, B-Park, Ju, To, and stuffs.
It's very critical condition that we are facing right now. As in the tap that they've closed, it's really giving us stress, and like it's so difficult for us to get water. Even so, for drinking, we ought to buy the sachet water, which is the pure water. And we boys like this, we are in one room. At times, we used to spend our 20 cedis in a day just for sachet water, drinking, not even for bathing.
And before I leave, First Lady Rebecca Akufo-Addo has reiterated the need for world leaders, especially those in Africa, to invest in building robust health systems. Speaking in the Merck Foundation Africa-Asia Luminary Video Conference, Mrs. Akufo-Addo mentioned how COVID-19 has had an unthinkable toll on the lives of every nation and noted because coronavirus may not be the last of such pandemics, there is a need to put in place systems which can support its people when similar situations arise in the future. Mrs. Akufo-Addo was joined by 13 other African First Ladies for the luminary, which also coincided with the Merck's 4th anniversary.
COVID-19 has had an unthinkable toll on our lives. We quickly realized that our health systems were simply not ready for a pandemic of such global magnitude. We all know this is by no means the last pandemic. There will be future pandemics, and we have to be prepared. Among other things, we need to build robust health systems. I therefore appreciate our partnership with Merck Foundation to train healthcare professionals in Ghana. Under this partnership, more than 60 healthcare providers have received critical training in the fields of cancer, diabetes, cardiology, endocrinology, respiratory and acute medicines, sexual and reproductive medicines, fertility, and embryology. Last year, the Merck Foundation partnered the Rebecca Foundation to produce our TV program, Because I Want to Be. This is a television mentoring program to encourage adolescent girls to stay in school.
And that's it for the AM News. I am Peter CBD.
Another song that sort of sounds off this one.
Okay.
And I maybe I'm a bit fussy. I tend to like originality and difference. For example, you know, with the rappers, there's a thing, you don't keep repeating your bars. You don't spit and keep repeating. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I like the fact that he has an extraordinary identity, though. So I like his style. Yeah. So when it drops, I know it's a quick flick, and I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like the trap music thing with Jeezy and the other guy's name. Yeah. Well, they're doing their own thing, the Americans. So, yeah, of course, we support them. But welcome aboard the news review segment of the show. It's another beautiful morning. How are you today?
Oh, I'm I'm very good. Yesterday, I stayed in Amasaman. I mean, I went to Amasaman yesterday, spent quite a bit of the morning, pretty much the entire morning there. I spent time at the Municipal Assembly as well, which was a good thing. Spent time with the police, MTTD. And yeah, so I've got a feature that will come up. Yeah, maybe tomorrow or Monday. Yeah. So.
Well, let's see.
But I'm good and well, and I'm back here. How? Yesterday I couldn't see you. I was reporting.
Oh, you missed me
on the ground, but I couldn't see your face.
You missed me. Just say it.
Why are you pushing me like that?
Oh, but won't for me. Now I'm sounding all. Show some puppy love. Some puppy love at least.
Me feel. It sounds like you cry.
Let's dig into the papers. The Ghanaian Times, the Business Finder, and the Daily Dispatch are the papers I have. It's a bit of a lean morning in terms of the papers today. I've
got the Daily Graphic, the Daily Guide, the Daily Statesman, and the Business and Financial Times. And just to also add that this morning I woke up to a 3-page piece written by the former Special Prosecutor, Mr. Martin Amidu. So we will run you through what he's been saying, also about the nominee for, the post that he once occupied, and the links that he's drawing to Asasi Radio and the Ejapa royalties deal, all coming up. Yeah.
So there's quite a bit as well, because I've been interacting with a number of people, and Edem Senanu, before yesterday, just to build the trajectory, he said that, well, the qualifications the man has, yes, he's very qualified, but in terms of the anti-graft fight, he's not been in that space. He doesn't see his qualification, so to speak, and that it's not what will make him fit for the office. That was Edem Senanu. Yesterday, I interacted with Murtala Muhammad, Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, and he said in his own words that Kisi Ajabing is absolutely unfit because of some of these surrounding issues. Of course, there are others who also say that the man is good for the job. We had Fusaini Isa, for example, former Member of Parliament for Okaikwe North, who said that if it just has to do with this supposed conflict of interest, and if he's representing certain people and you feel he is tied to these people, and so he's tied to their heartstring, he has heartstrings for them, and if any issue was supposed to arise, he wouldn't be able to deal with them. All he has to do is to let go of those clients, and he can move forward. So this will make for interesting, analysis as the days, go on. But it's interesting that Martin Amido is also wading in a way.
All right, so let's look at what the papers are reporting today, and I'll start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. On the front page, Keeping Ghana Clean, Name, Shame, Sanctions, Speakers at Graphic Sanitation Campaign launch. It's the Graphic National Sanitation Awareness Campaign. It's been launched in Accra with a call for the strict enforcement of sanitation bylaws and the naming and shaming of people who flout the laws. These were the key recommendations by the various speakers at the launch yesterday. I also pursue digital growth aggressively. That's Kojopong Nkrumah urging the Daily Graphic. President launches $25 million film pitch. Military moves to flush out illegal miners from rivers. And this is one big one that's also getting lots of reactions. And I don't know if you have thought about this piece of information yet and what you make of it, considering the military was involved in earlier fights against Galamsey. So the Ghana Armed Forces have begun an operation to remove all persons engaged in mining in water bodies in Ghana. The operation, which started yesterday on President Akufo-Addo's directive, took off on the River Pra in the central and the western regions with 200 soldiers who picked up some people and also seized some equipment. In the center spread of the Daily Graphic, Fidelity Bank posts strong 2020 results. Ghana Revenue Authority intensifies education to meet 2021 target. Alliance Life recapitalizes above new minimum capital requirements. Ghana Beverage Awards 2020 held virtually. And congratulations to Awake Purified Drinking Water, the emerged winner of the Ultimate Award Product of the Year. So that's another big one for the company Casapreco. On the back page, Ghana rolls out a 5-year anti-malaria strategy. And also contractors working to expand portions of the Tema-Aflao Highway have proposed to install traffic signals at the Pombaria Junction as a temporary measure to address the periodic gridlock along the stretch. That's it for the Daily Graphic.
Let's quickly check out the Ghanaian Times newspaper. At the presidential pitch series, $25 million boost for movie industry as government moves to create 6,000 jobs in a sector. Now, this one that all of us are talking about, government deploys 200 soldiers to sack galamseyers in Western region. That story is on page 17. I'll bring you details of that. Abrogate contract between NLA, KGL and KEED to save lotto industry. That's on page 18. And then this one. Man throws son into sea as sacrifice. In fact, that's on page 3. I'll just take a brief look at some of the stories there. And this 31-year-old man who allegedly threw his son into the sea near Akuma in Accra has appeared before the Kaneshie District Court charged with murder. His name, Prince Akwe, also known as Jew, said to have engaged in occultism, allegedly threw his son into the sea as a sacrifice. Akwe is said to have told his girlfriend that if anything happened to their son, she should not worry because they were going to be rich very soon. The court did not take Akwe's plea and he was remanded into police custody pending further investigations. So a bit of a tricky one there, but the things we do nowadays for money, or the things we have been doing, I should say. There are other interesting stories on page 3. Wife arrested for inflicting cutlass wounds on husband. So sometimes the reverse is also true. And road crashes claim 33 lives in the Upper East region. I'll bring you details of all of those stories. Minority asks government to explain challenges in power sector. They've come through with a 10-point plan that they want government to respond to. That's on page 4. The Middle Spread International Conference on Food Security System begins online, and on the back page, 560 MSMEs to compete in after other formal markets. And check out this one on the back page of the paper. Look at that. That's a death trap right there on the whole Accra road. I mean, if you were driving on this stretch, what would you do? And if you didn't know that this was there, there's not even, I don't even see enough space to the side to maneuver your way through. But it's to be fixed in 3 weeks, and hopefully 3 weeks will be 3 weeks. That's it for the Ghanaian Times newspaper.
All right, let's do the Daily Guide newspaper next. On the front page, 200 soldiers fight galamsey along rivers. Charlotte Osei meets Nana, one of those trending pictures on social media yesterday. Bafo Akoto fought tyranny. That story is also on page 3. In the paper, Minister for Food and Agriculture, Dr. Usu Efriye Akoto, son of late Asantehene chief linguist Bafo Akoto, has said his father played a key role in helping to prevent dictatorship in Ghana after attaining the independence from colonial rule. It's a very popular constitutional law case, Akoto. So, Bafo Akoto and the 7 others were arrested on this preventive law, the Preventive Detention Act. And this was under Nkrumah, one of those cases that when it is cited, people try to use that as a democratic dispensation, something that happened then in the military era. And they try to, say that some of the things that happened under Nkrumah did not even happen under military rule. And so I think the PDA is one of the few distasteful things that happened under Nkrumah. Yes, I mean, if you were going to be put in detention without knowing what exactly your actual crime was, and without any timelines, without the court really going through certain processes, I mean, that was a great worry. I imagine myself, I wouldn't want to go through that. So if people went through that for about 4 or 5 years in incarceration, without trial, so this
it's a big
was
problem.
Act.
But just so I
just wanted to explain a little things just for people who are following us, who are watching, who may not really know. This was an act that was passed by Parliament during the Nkrumah era, which essentially would arrest and detain people without trial.
And especially even on a mere suspicion. that you were up to something that could be inimical to the fortunes of the state or the leader of the state, I mean, that could land you into trouble. That's how bad it was. I am an Nkrumah fanatic. I believe he was a fantastic man. I believe if we had the likes of Nkrumah today, we would be in a far better place. But as we do this, sometimes there's a bit of a twist to it. I'm not going to avoid it. Sometimes we skew it and make it seem as though the man were a demon among us. No, every man has his own foibles. You get it. We can also go back to the Apollo situation. You remember that famous case as well?
So this was his extras.
These were his extras. If you go to Buzia, you would also find his extras going to court and all of that. So it runs through our
But this case is not just, if you like, a dent on Nkrumah, but also our courts, because they had an opportunity when this case went to court. And
I think it's more of a dent on the courts.
Criticized that they could have, made a big decisions that were made during the military era, even in court, and they did not attempt to do it. So you can read about the lectures and where we are with the series. I think it's a good thing that the series happens, every year. Kufuor honored in Sierra Leone. It's also another story here. And Tobago support malaria campaign. Let's do page 5. Boris Johnson faces probe into home renovation costs. That's Britain's political spending watchdog will launch a formal investigation into the funding of renovations to Prime Minister Boris Johnson's apartment in Downing Street as he faces multiple allegations of political sleaze and scandal. And then in the center spread where we have the News One pullout, Samini is reacting. He's described as fake claims that he will be joining the political race to run for Member of Parliament for Wa Central constituency in 2024. And veteran actor Prince Yosin, known in showbiz as Wache, has said it is not wrong to be God's preacher man and actor at the same time. And according to Wache, he would not stop his acting career because he had been ordained as a reverend minister. He said he would pursue both paths to the advantage of God's work. All right. And Bulldog's retraction a justification. So another prosecution witness in the trial of artist manager Lawrence Nanesiama Hansen, aka Bulldog, has told an Accra Circuit Court that he sees, or that she sees, the accused person's retraction to be more of a justification of the alleged threat he made against the president. Fallout of that court appearance in the paper today. On the back page, Minister of Defense stars corporate support. That's the Minister for Youth and Sport, Mustafa Yusuf, says the Black Stars attracting corporate support will significantly have a positive impact on funding for the other sporting discipline, which are considered least financed. I think that what is trending with the Black Stars is actually their budgets to this campaign and the inconsistencies, the fact that the minister was not straightforward when he was addressing that matter in terms of what the exact budget was.
Remember Gold Coast in Australia and all of those matters arising. And I've forgotten who exactly said this, but a prominent figure who's been saying that it's not just pumping money. The money will not win us the trophy. You can pump in the resources, but there are other things that must be done. Remember 2014, for example, I mean, drawing with Germany and what we did. You can just imagine if there had been unity in the camp, if what was owed the players had been, if everything had been done in a certain way, I believe we could have advanced much more in that tournament. So it takes much more than money, though, to ensure that everything is right and that our stars can win the trophy. But let's check out, are you done with the graphic news?
Yes.
Let's check out the Business Finder now. And it talks about, I don't want to repeat other stories that have already come to the fore. EcoBank, GHS, others commit to eliminate malaria. And you may have heard by now of the malaria vaccines. They've been on trial for quite a while. We're hoping that finally we can see a lot of progress in the fight against malaria. We will audit toll booths. That's according to the roads minister. Is it now that we're going to audit them? And on page 4, development of Pitiko, I'm hoping that's how it's pronounced, is my goal. That's the Pitiko Hene. And I'm only highlighting this because Pitiko, by the way, is a community in the Kwewu Afram Plains South District. And if every chief, if every community leader, if every DCE were to commit, like this chief is doing, that I am going to bring about real development in my community, in my area, maybe all these calls sometimes, and government, well, guess what? We are government, and we elect those few people we put up there as leaders. So I think this is a very good example. The chief has taken it upon himself. I'm going to develop my community, my area. Exploiting Africa's $1 trillion food market, and that's on page 5. My own friend Anthony Morrison and, of course, Foster Boateng, the Agra regional head for West Africa, share their thoughts on that matter. When you turn to page 9, time to end gender stereotyping in arts industry. I totally agree. That's it for Business Finder newspaper.
Let me follow up with the Business and Financial Times newspaper. On the front page, panelists urge businesses to collaborate to survive COVID-19 challenges. Pandemic winners have to adapt to technology sustainably. That's a call by the UMB boss. President unveils $25 million initiative to support film industry as that's the sector minister promises to create rich, comfortable filmmakers, artists, and artistes. All in the paper today. There's also a feature on tech trends to watch in 2021 and beyond. Another feature on financial planning that you might want to check out on the back page. PIAC, the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, has expressed concern over an amount of $843 million owed Ghana National Gas Company by power utilities, lamenting that the situation denies the Ghana Petroleum funds of much needed money for investment and development. The rest of the story is on the back page of the Business and Financial Times newspaper, as well as this one. The president of the Federation of African Engineering Organization, who is the first female Ghanaian engineer to head the federation, has led a team of African engineers to sign a historic Africa-Asia-Pacific Accord during a virtual ceremony. The rest of it is on the back page of the Business and Financial Times.
On now to the Daily Dispatch. NPP National Chairman race. Whom will Akufo-Addo support? NDC National Chairman slot Nketia and Spio to challenge Ofosu Ampofo. And then Akufo-Addo deploys, well, that has been mentioned time and again. Former High Commissioner to Canada, Dr. Sule Garba, dies. He passed on Tuesday, April the 27th, 2021. Our condolences to his family and the country at large. So that's it with the headlines. Are you done with your final paper?
I am, sir.
Okay, so let's get into some of the details with the little time we have left. I'll do two stories. First, on page 3 of the Ghanaian Times newspaper, road crashes claim 33 lives in Upper East region, and at least 33 persons made up of 30 males and 3 females have been killed in road crashes in the Upper East region in the first quarter of 2021. A statement signed and copied to the Ghana News Agency by Mr. Abdullahi Bawa-Gamza, the Upper East regional head of National Road Safety Authority, said a total of 78 cases of road crashes were recorded during the period. He said the figures showed a surge in the number of road crashes recorded for the same period last year. So last year there were 64 in the entire year of 2020 with 32 deaths. But look at the toll this time round. Finally, minority asks government to explain challenges in power sector, and the minority in parliament has called on government to explain challenges in the power sector and desist from playing the blame game amidst conflicting accounts on the problem. Mr. Jinapo, NDC MP for Yape Kusogu, said the problem facing the energy sector was more serious than the, quote, unconvincing excuses and blame game. Of course, they've outlined their own thoughts on what government should be doing. You can check out details of that on page 4 of the paper. That's it.
So today's Thursday, right? On Tuesday, I visited a company in Tema. It's called SML. It's Strategic Mobilization Ghana. They actually provide revenue assurance services, and they've been in operation for about 10 months. And within that period, they've helped us save a billion, Ghana cedis in revenue. And it was a tour of the facility, and it was very impressive, how they
How do they manage that?
So they've put trackers on about 16 of the depots in Ghana, and I'm talking petroleum here.
Okay.
Before
I see.
They are set up. And I think we read a story related to them not too long ago, maybe last week thereabouts.
Yeah.
And so they kind of track when petroleum products are being discharged. And so they're able to tell exactly how much is going out or going in. And we have about 20 of the depots, but they've successfully put their trackers on about 16 of the depots. So
that
they're
in
helping
itself.
Customs.
No, go ahead.
They're helping customs, bill these dealers exactly how much they are either discharging or offloading. And it was really, really impressive. Massive investment that they had out there. And so we went to one of the sites, how they actually track, firsthand, one of those private operators, and it was really, really good. I thought that as we're given opportunity to highlight on details of the stories, I would put this one out. Yeah.
Well, it is a tricky business, that bit, and sometimes the operators even the truck drivers are always trying to cut corners. Yeah. They are always up to something. Very few of them are that trustworthy. So, of course, you must put in place the right mechanisms to ensure we're getting the very best. Can we do My Joy Online very quickly? Hopefully, if we can, we'll do that very briefly. And then wrap up for sports.
I said I was going to say a little bit about Mr. Martin Amidu. I think we'll have time later on in the show. But just the opening of this 3-page piece whilst we get ready to do myjoyonline.com, where he makes some links. Let me just read exactly what he's written. He says, anybody deeply knowledgeable about the Japa Royalties Transaction Corruption Risk Assessment Report, which resulted in my eventual resignation as the first special prosecutor, knows that one of the beneficiaries of the Japa Royalties transaction is Africa Legal Associate, whose contract to participate in the transaction was found to be contrary to the Public Procurement Act and tainted by bid rigging. Until 20th March 2020, Japa Royalties Limited was incorporated as Asase Royalties Limited on 5th November 2019 in Jersey and United Kingdom. Anybody who cares to know knows that the alter ego of Africa Legal Associate is a cousin of the president, who also established Asase Radio, which began official transmission on 14 June 2020. The Japa Royalties transaction records show the role the president cousin, who established Africa Legal Associate and Asase Radio, played with White and Case LLP of London, one of the foreign law firms in the suspected corruption transaction. And this is just one paragraph of this 3-page. His reaction basically is a story that Asase Radio, the online, did on the nominee for the special prosecutor position, but also how they brought him in to that conversation on their website. And he's making the link to the name that we've heard in terms of Kessie Japing, who's been nominated by the Attorney General. He talks about the fact that they are friends, classmates, and draws all the links in there. Maybe later on in the show, we'll be able to highlight properly some of the areas in this 3-page piece. But I have a gift for you.
Oh, you do?
Yes. I met an amazing man, Professor Douglas Boateng.
Okay.
He's an incredible academic, and please open it.
Okay, so
open it.
The official unveiling.
Yes, this is for you.
Right. Professor
Douglas Boateng. He's a professor extraordinaire for supply and value chain management.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And he mentioned you, so this is for you.
He did?
Yes, sir.
Right, so you can actually check it out. Yeah, so I think this works.
Yep.
Supply chain management.
Yeah.
I might want to change my career at this point in time, or add on Like Wache says, I can't quit there. I'll do this one in addition. So maybe I'll add up something. Wow, look at those. So, Professor Douglas Boating.
Yeah. He's actually like a really deep person, and there's something that he's been sharing every day with his contacts. And I would bring it out so that all of us will enjoy it actually on television in the coming days. So look out for it. I mean, he's a deep man. He cares about the young people. He cares about our future. And he's involved in all sorts of things. I mean, he's very open-minded, really deep person. You would love an engagement with him.
You look at his qualifications alone. I mean, this is like, it makes for interesting.
He's fully loaded.
Well, Prof, I'm very grateful for this. God richly bless you. And Mama V has delivered live on television. So
yeah,
here we are.
Well, he didn't ask me to do it this way, by the way. This was not how it was supposed to come out.
So let's quickly do My Joy online. I wait to see how independently corruption cases will be handled by new surrogate special prosecutor Martin Amidu there. He's throwing jabs already. Repair works begin on Ho-Accra Highway following JoyNews report. We get you results. It is sad the competence of Jean Mensah and Charlotte Osei were questioned. Ibn Chambers is saying that another energy crisis will have dire consequences on already struggling Akufo-Addo economy. That's John Jinapor. Then we have Ibn Chambers again saying parties in opposition have an appetite for change until they win power. Last 2 or 3 stories. Kisi Ajabeng absolutely unfit for office of special prosecutor. That's what I was alluding to from Murtala Muhammad yesterday. Then Agenda 111 projects will start after Akufo-Addo cuts short. That's according to Dr. Insia Asari. And final one, full text, Martin Amidu's take on nomination of new special prosecutor. So those are some of the thoughts there. And while I feel we can share, our thoughts, play all the political games and analysis in whichever way we want to, I think we should pay attention to some of what people are saying from both sides. Those who are saying the guy is good, let us give him a chance. And those who are also sharing contrary views that, look, these are warning signals. Let's pay attention to both of them so that in the end, we all arrive at some sort of consensus. In the end, though, yes, the president will go through the processes that must be gone through and Parliament will do what it must do. But at least let's allow people to share their thoughts for or against. I believe it's important.
All right. Okay, so from Professor Douglas Boating, he puts out this Nyansakasa. You know what Nyansakasa is? Words talk, of wisdom. Right? And that's what I'll be sharing on the AM show. All right, we have to go and make way for sports.
But before that...
Muftau, Nabila?
Yes, there's a happy birthday event going on, or at least. So happy birthday to my lovely wife, Mrs. Ellen Boama. It's from her husband, Ernest Boama, and children, Josiah and Jaden. The name Jaden is becoming pretty popular. Well, happy birthday, Mrs. Ellen Boama. We wish you the very best. Time now for sports. We'll be talking about Manchester City digging into PSG. That's up next. Stay.
And the former Minister of Youth and Sports, Isaac Esiama, he has reacted to this, saying that the current minister, Mustafa Yusuf, should make sure that he scrutinizes every single demand made before he makes payments. But now, let's move on and do something on Coles Football, because the president of the Ghana Football Association, Kurt Okreko, launched Coles Football yesterday, and he says that the football governing body will invest in the tuition of young talents to understand the basics of football. This, he believes, when properly done, will improve the various national teams in the foreseeable future. My colleague Mubarak Haruna was at the event and filed this report.
The date mooted for the start of the Juvenile League was last month in March. However, due to COVID-19 issues, government did not give the GFA the clearance to start. But now that the Juvenile League has been launched, it means competitions at the district level can start. Juvenile football was in existence in the previous years, but due to COVID-19, which has halted all sporting activities, really brought that particular competition to a halt. And also due to the 8 children who died in that offensive accident in Kumasi in September last year. President of the Ghana Football Association, who doubles up as the head of the Juvenile Committee, expressed his delight in the return of the Juvenile League. He also added that the return of the league will ensure that the various national teams will be formidable.
When we speak about the fundamentals, juvenile football is a key component of the fundamentals of association football. And if it is that we are not doing well at the youth level in recent times, it is because we've not placed too much emphasis on juvenile football, and it is that time that we have to put in a lot more energy so that the kids get the right levels of tuition, get the right levels of logistics to be able to show their God-given talent, and then from there they can make their progression as they climb the ladder. So juvenile football, like I said, is key. It is only from the juvenile leagues that super talents can go through the ladder or can go up the ladder for national selectors to take notice. And if it is that the juvenile leagues are strong, our national teams invariably will be strong, especially the juvenile level. And if you cast your mind back in the years that Ghana has done very well at the juvenile level, our Black Stars have been very strong. Okay, so I'm extremely expectant, I'm extremely happy, and I think that we are in the right way. We are pressing the right buttons at the right time, in spite of the fact that we are in an extremely difficult period of COVID-19. I mean, somebody will say it's no joke at all to operate within this period, but we're pushing, and we're bringing along the industry step by step.
Former Black Stars midfielder and a player who has risen through the ranks in Coles football is Lai Kinson. Now he shares the sentiment of Keto Kreku.
It's very, very important. That's what will produce likes of Asamoah, likes of Michaelesians, likes of all these top players, Stephen Appiah, all these top players that Ghana have ever had, the DIUs and all those people. So with that is very, very important for us to focus more over there and then give them that support. And then in future we can get those quality of players that we used to have.
Juvenile League, we start on May 6th, has a different format. The winner at the district level will compete at the regional level, and the winner at the regional level will also compete at the national level. Now this particular competition is called the National Champions League. From the Ghana Football Association Secretariat and for Joy Sports, I am Haruna Mubarak.
Lai Kinson had mentioned about how important it is for the country to pay attention to Coles football. Now, Ghana's all-time leading scorer is Asamoah. He's a beneficiary of Coles football, and he believes that when the initiative is well, properly, and spectacularly put in place, the fortunes of Ghana football, the country's football, will be in better shape.
In my days, I was very, very deadly. I started from the coast level, so it boosted my confidence. Even when I came to the Premier League, the confidence was already there. You could see the atmosphere, you see the fans very, very close to the field. So when they graduate and they go to the Premier League level, the confidence is already there because the fans are very, very close to them. They won't panic. This is how we started from the coast level. We started from this level, and then we got to where we are today. For Ghanaians to push this thing because Ghana is a football nation. We've got quality players, we've got young, hungry players who are coming, we've got players who are looking up to us, who wants to do something in future, to help their families and everybody. So it's very good, and I'm sure we will revive it.
At long last, we have gotten back to what we used to admire.
We will see great players from.
Let's do some rugby news. The Ghana Rugby Players Association have petitioned the board of the Rugby Union to force its president, Herbert Mensah, to step down within 72 hours. The petition, signed by the Grouper President, Akko Wilson, and Secretary General Abdul Nazir Mezongo, and addressed to the board on April 23, was also sent to the National Sports Authority, the Ministry of Youth and Sports, and the Ghana Olympic Committee. General Secretary of the Ghana Rugby Players Union, Abdul Nazir Mezongo, was on Sports Today and answered some of the burning questions.
As rugby players, and that includes Mr. Herbert Mensah, he was a rugby player. Now, this is what solidarity is defined as in rugby. It says rugby brings people of all shapes, sizes, backgrounds, and beliefs together. Through rugby, we learn to see past our differences and focus on similarities that unite us all. This solidarity creates a unifying spirit that connects our global rugby family. You've seen the petition. I'm sure you've counted over 100 people willingly, forcefully signing a petition to remove Herbert Mensah.
Now, I mean, the bit
it's disturbing to disregard the fact that there is no unity. You can't disregard the fact. And you see, at the meeting, I noticed one thing. I know I'm very passionate about rugby because I've played rugby. I mean, I started playing rugby in 2005. I've played rugby till date. I'm still a rugby player, although I double as an administrator for the association. But the truth is, I am losing passion. And at that meeting, I have never witnessed an overflow of disgruntled people, of dissatisfied persons like I witnessed that day. In fact, I'm scared for my own reputation, and I know the same happens to my president. We had to put this down, and we sent it to the board, and that is what we have done. So I have to also say that I can't expatiate too much on some of the issues you have read out to the viewing public, because we have tabled it to the board. And from the board's response, we were told that the president, through one of his reps on the board, mentioned he was going to resign, of course, with immediate effect. But then what have we seen today? It keeps prolonging.
Okay, so can you just clarify this one? Welcome back on the AM show, and we talk about a topical national issue. It has to do with bringing an end to illegal mining in the country with a focus on our water bodies. The Ghana Water Company Limited has been telling us about just how much it costs, what it takes to process water. Yesterday, when I got home, I opened the tap. I've not opened it in a long while, and the water that flowed was far from clear. So we are in a crisis. It is a reality. But how do we get out of this position we find ourselves in? Joining us for this discussion on the back of that deployment of 200 personnel to help stem the tide of galamsey or illegal mining, we have Godwin Ama, General Secretary of the Small Scale Miners Association. We also have Dr. Juliet Ohiming-Tiamwa, Environmental Engineer in the United States. We have other guests who will be joining us via Zoom as well for this all-important conversation. But lady, gentlemen, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Great. So let me start from your end, Godwin, and speak about, your initial reaction to this entire development. When you heard this yesterday, how did you take the news?
Okay, thank you and good morning to listeners. The association in 2017 sent a position paper to government, and the 3 points that we stated on it was: one, to deal with galamsey, we should look at the forest reserves to protect our forest reserves. That's number one. And also to ensure that the river bodies are cleared of dredges, popularly known as chamfar. And also, if on the land, if we get people who are mining and they are mining illegally, if the space there is free, there is no license or prospecting this thing on that area, then their operations as illegal mining should be regularized so that they can be monitored properly. So we are happy that government have deployed the military. However, it's so small. 200 is it's attributed like the Brim and other rivers there. So if we are only monitoring or there's monitoring activity on the private the dredge, the other tributaries to Pra. At the end of the day, we'll still have the same challenge because this rivers flows into Pra River. Secondly, if the forest reserves, we don't protect the forest reserve, then the covers are removed by these illegal miners and legal operators, then the rivers will be polluted right from the source because most of these river bodies pick their source from the forest reserves. And if the covers are not the forest, then you'll be having this issue of pushing, and the stability will be very high. So government deploying is not enough. The number is not enough. And the association over the past 4 years, we have also sent our task force on the river bodies. And then we sponsored the whole operation over 1 million Ghana cedis. And we've been able to remove over 8,000 dredges from the river bodies. But still, we still need to sustain the effort. So we are prepared to collaborate with government and ensure that our river bodies are free from these dredges.
Okay, so interesting point you make there. You are saying, you know, just to hammer on the point that you feel the numbers are not enough. Well, this is the first rollout, but we wait to see whether there will be other additions. But you're saying the number is not enough. And as far as your association is concerned, so you see this as the right step to take at this point in time, just to clarify.
Yeah, it's the right step to take at this point in time, and we are prepared to collaborate. But the approach should be more decentralized. If it's seen only at the national level, then to sustain it will become a challenge. If we don't involve other stakeholders in the management of these illegal mining activities, then it will be more political. And you know, when it comes to politics, we can start from the first year, second year, third year. You realize that because it's getting close to elections, then government will not be able to sustain it because it's being led by politicians. But we should ensure that we widen the stakeholders who are involved in the management of the illegal mining activity. In that sense, we'll be able to sustain it for a very long time. We are looking at it at the regional level. We should go to the district level and the community level. Opinion leaders in the communities are all added to the leadership of the whole process. But if it's done at the national level and you don't involve all these stakeholders, sustain the fight to be of a challenge.
Okay.
But it will be sustained for only 2 years. The third and the fourth year, you see that the effort will be reduced because we are approaching elections here. And that has been the challenge over and over and over for successive governments all the time in the fight against it.
I'll come back to you, Godwin, on more substantive matters, but let me cross over to Doc now. I find it interesting. You are in the United States, and there, I mean, across different countries, we've had gold rushes over time. In the United States, from 1848 to 1855, we had a gold rush. But I don't know why it is that other countries are able to handle the situation, and in Ghana we've got it wrong for so long when it comes to illegal mining and the impact on our environment. Right from the United States, which also has a lot of gold, what do you see such countries doing that Ghana is failing to do in order to protect the environment?
Okay. Thanks very much for having me, Evans. I think for me, as even a water engineer or water and wastewater engineer, I would like to even first start by painting the, picture of the water bodies, the water bodies, and the supply of water that we have even in Ghana, or let's say starting from elsewhere and then coming to Ghana. Then we see how critical it is at this point to protect our water bodies. And then, in answering your question, what's not making us get it right whilst other countries are getting it right. So currently, around the world, all the countries are making a lot of efforts to protect water bodies. Why? Because, we know that climate change is impending issue. So there are some effects like drought that's going to happen. And, considering that population growth is also something that is occurring, at a fast rate, depending on where you are. A lot of countries are doing, or putting in lots of efforts to protect water bodies. So if you go to even Singapore, they are, doing desalination and even treating wastewater to even a level where it can be reused or for potable water purposes and other purposes. Now, as I said, all these countries have intensified these efforts, even in preparation for climate change. Now, when we look at our country, Ghana, what we see is, and if you take a look at the 2020 report from Ministry of Water and Sanitation, you see that currently, even away from Galamsey issues, you realize that only 66% of Ghanaians have some form of access to water. And this does not necessarily, mean treated water, right? So let's say about 66% of Ghanaians have some form of access to rivers, to streams, and boreholes, or other things that they are able to meet their water demand with. And when you look at that percentage, only 27% of Ghanaians have access to cleanly treated water. Now that percentage is really low, and if we now try to look at even issues of Galamsey, and if care is not taken or drastic measures are not taken, what it's going to mean is that we have water treatment plants that are not going to be able to treat water. I think your media house has even covered some of those. We see something like Chebi water treatment plants and Abesim all shutting down because they are practically getting mad, right? Now, so if we are not taking care of this issue as urgent as it is, what is going to happen is that more of the water treatment plants are not going to be able to treat water for us to drink or for Ghanaians to drink. And I mean, we don't want to get to a position where they have to invest in higher forms of treatment processes where, at the end of the day, the treated water is going to be way expensive for people to even afford. So this is the picture that we have at hand. And it means that we need to really take drastic measures to curb this issue. Now, in other countries, the United States, where I even reside right now, they have resources. They are exploring gold, they are exploring oil and all of that. But the key thing is, they have environmental laws that they enforce.
Right.
So, for example, you can be an American citizen, all right, but you cannot just, get up, take an excavator and then go into any forest and, start mining because you found gold there. The environmental laws are as strict as it can be, and they have the institutions that work to make sure that, people are complying. So back to what Godwin said, if we really want to see this menace being taken care of, then we need all stakeholders involved. We need to strengthen our institutions. We need EPA to be able to do its job as it's supposed to do. We need the chiefs to be able to take responsibility for, areas under their jurisdiction. We need the DCEs also to be really up and doing, ensuring that Galamsey is not going on in their district. So we cannot leave it to just the president that, okay, the president has deployed 200 military men and let's say the problem is going to go away. No, it's not going to go away until everybody sees it as a national issue of interest and one that is of urgency for us to look, into. And then we can see that our conversations are going somewhere, or we are heading towards a place that we are finding solution.
Okay, so let me quickly ask you this bit. In substance, then, it is a failure of our institutions to act because you just put it side by side, juxtaposing the situation in the United States where you can't just get up and do certain things. We have the rules, we have the law here, but
it appears people have been able to get around the law, circumvent the law, and that is what has led us to where we are, because some people have prospecting licenses, and then you see them in the process of actually mining our resources. We've seen all of that. So one thing you are saying, just to clarify, is that our institutions, our laws have failed. Is that the point?
I would say the law enforcement, has been quite weak, and we need to make sure that our laws are working. And so let's say if we take our institutions, for example, EPA, what is not helping them, carry out their duties as they are supposed to be doing? They should let us know as a country, what impediments or what, hindrances they are facing. We all know that, in this issue, the people involved could be, highly connected individuals. So maybe as a result, the institutions are afraid to function as they are supposed to function. All these conversations need to be had. And once we come together as a country that there's an urgent issue and we are finding a stop to it, then it's, lies on our institutions to really make it happen. So away from Environmental Protection Agency, we are looking at our police, we are looking at our military. I think it's been sad in some cases to even see videos of some members of, the military protecting illegal miners. Do you get it? So it goes back to our institutions, because the president cannot be everywhere. The Minister of Lands and Natural Resources cannot be everywhere to enforce, the communique out of the dialogue they had, right? It comes down to the institutions and the people heading these institutions to help us get this to work. Let the laws work.
Right. So a pretty interesting conversation you've started there with regard to the institutions themselves and the role they are to play to ensure that the law is actually applied. But let's quickly come into the studio as well. Let me acknowledge the presence of Joseph Kwam, who happens to be a former board member of the Minerals Commission, as well as a former member of Parliament for Manso and Kwanta. Mr. Kwam, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, my brother.
And thank you for joining the conversation.
Thank you.
Let me just ask you, your community, mining community?
Yes.
What would you say, just because you have now joined the conversation, what would you say has been the impact of mining on your community? Illegal mining, I should say.
My brother, is not as easy as you can see. I started fighting illegal mining.
You started fighting?
Yes.
Yes.
In the year 2012. I'm sure you heard about an uprising between indigents of Manson Siena and that of some illegal Chinese miners. In fact, that is what exactly made me even to come to Parliament, for us to try our maximum best to create an awareness for people to know that illegal mining, and for that matter, Galamsey, is a national threat, national security threat, and something that we all have to make sure that we fight against it. Mining is good, yes. Mining have, let me put it, it has a lot of economic benefits. But the reality is that if you are to do mining, you have to do it in a more environmentally friendly, so that at the end of the day, you get your benefit and also save the environment. Of course, everybody is aware that we have the mineral right and that of the surface right. Before you can go into mining, you have to make sure that you take off the vegetation before you can hit the ground. But the reality is that we have to do it with some strategies, and we have to do it according to law in order for us to get what you want, and at the same time...
Like Doc was saying, Ohimeng Tiamwa, she is saying, well, the laws are not being applied as they ought to. The institutions are not doing the right thing, whether it's the EPA, whether it's the
I mean, in the past, we've deployed the military to do the exact same thing we're going to do now. So what do you feel is that fulcrum around which the problem is revolving, so that we seem not to be able to pin it down and resolve it? In the meantime, the water bodies in your community across the country are getting more and more polluted, and we're basically digging our own graves when it comes to our environment.
My brother, that is true. The situation is that before you can tackle this issue, you should be able to know the causes. As a scientist, if you are not able to identify on Earth the causes of illegal mining, that is where you fight to nothing. You remember that in 2017, 7th April 2017, I said something which probably maybe some school of thought didn't understand me. I said that we need to revoke all prospecting mining licenses.
All of them?
Yes.
Okay.
Before in revoking them, you have to audit. When you audit them, those that are being affected, then you have to revoke them, because it looks as if a lot of people go for prospecting mining licenses. When they go for it, the intent behind it is what is, to be honest, bad.
And just to make it clear for those watching us, when you're prospecting, you're merely trying to find out whether the resource you are looking for is actually extant in that patch of that parcel of land or something. But then what we know is that a lot of them end up actually mining because they've got the prospecting.
Exactly. That is exactly,
which is not what they are supposed to do.
That is it. Because actually we have 2 exploration licenses. We have reconnaissance licenses, and we have that of prospecting. Reconnaissance, you are looking for any mineral within 12 calendar months. If you are not able to, you renew it for, let's say, another 12 calendar months. But in the case of prospecting, it's 3 years, subject to renewal of another 3 years. But when they take the license, according to law, you can drill and excavate, but you can't do mineral extraction.
Right.
So if you go to any prospecting mining concession and you find, let's see, this the machines or the mechanism for extraction of gold, in addition to excavators, then of course it means that the institution, or let me put it, the individual or the company that came for the prospecting license has violated the law, and as such we need to cancel it. Now,
let me just pin you down on this. You have actually been a lawmaker before. Don't you feel that part of the problem really is the fact that, well, maybe I would lay part of it at the doorstep of Parliament. We struggled with this problem, especially since 2007. And these things that you are telling us about, they are not new. They are things that we've seen for decades happening in our country. We have known that people take prospecting licenses, they go and conduct different activities altogether, and we have sat down for the problem to get to where it has. And all of this that we are saying, it is not new. So why have we waited this long to address the problem now that it's come to the head?
My brother, as at now, right now as we speak, the major problem is those people who mine on the riverbeds, the two people. You see the point? That one, as soon as possible, must be dealt with, because that's one of the major causes. But in the case of what you are talking about, it's as if it is some sort of some menace or cartel.
Cartel?
Yeah, who normally
are behind the cartel?
Yeah, no. Let me put it that way, because those normally who go for the prospecting license have the intent, that most of them have the intent that at the end of the day, they are going to demarcate them into small-scale holdings, give it to some people for them to mine. Are you getting a point? Now, the issue is, if you are going for prospecting license and you know that you are not going to do the core purpose of which you acquired it, it has been taken away from you. Now, you were talking about, what do you call it, it has been an adage, year after year, day after day, people going for prospecting license. Now, my brother, the issue is this. I could remember, as a board member, there was a ban on prospecting in the forest, which we all made sure that it is being enforced. But at some point, we've seen a lot of people mining in the forest. So where did they get the license? So these are some of the things, to me, I feel that we still need to go into it.
So that's part of a failure in the system?
Not failure, but then we still need to make sure that within the system, probably maybe some people are circumventing the law. For instance, we've seen military men going to fight Galamsey. They go to site, they do everything. But at the end of the day, it is like that. That is why I feel, for me, I feel that the right thing to do is to make sure that we have serious supervisory role, even associated with even the military, who go to site to...
so the 200 who are being deployed must be supervised. They themselves must be monitored.
Exactly. We have to monitor them.
Right.
Because if you don't do that, it's going to turn out to be the same way, which has been an occurrence. For instance, in 2012, 2013, 2014, there was some sort of task force who were going around. It came back to be like the same old thing. Now we also came with this same military, and we are still facing the same challenge. That means that we have to make sure that we change the strategy.
Okay, I'll come back to you on changing the strategy. Let me come to you, Godwin, because that's another point I want us to really dig into. We've had, Galam stuff. We've had the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining. We've had the military in the thick of things. In fact, tied to that, we even had the gruesome murder of Major Mahama. Now, the deployment of the military in this instance, do you feel it is the first step, first part of the puzzle we ought to be addressing at this point in time? Do you feel it is that one thing that we should be doing? Because, and I'm just going to quote for you here, I heard a major player in the industry yesterday say that he was disappointed in this approach, that he was shocked, and that he was projecting it was going to fail just like the last. We've tried the armed forces before. It did not work. Why are we back to the armed forces? What do you think?
Okay, thank you. Before I come to that, let me respond to some issues that were mentioned by Prof. Kwam. One of which is the revocation of all prospecting licenses. I think, excuse me to say, it will be a lazy man's approach in dealing with the issue, because prospecting licenses that have been issued to companies, we know the companies that have been issued with the prospecting licenses. We have state institutions like the Mines Inspectorate, Minerals Commission, and the EPA that to ensure that they adhere to the processes and the procedures for which they were given the prospecting licenses. So if we say we should ban everyone, it's not everyone that is doing the wrong thing. We should ban those who are not doing the right thing, because we know them, we know their coordinates. If they are not going according to the tenets of the license, those licenses should be revoked. But when we say it should be a one-time ban for every prospector, there becomes a challenge, because there will be financial implications. They went through the process and the laws of the Republic supports them. So those who are not doing the right thing should be dealt with, because they can be identified. That is number one. With the state institutions also, they should be strengthened. They should be given the adequate logistics to be able to work effectively. And appointment of chief executives and the leadership of these state institutions should not be done on the political line. If it happens that way, then we'll not go anywhere. If we say, okay, let's say Minerals Commission, for instance, we have technical people that understands the sector very well. They should be allowed to head this institution, because we have the board there that will also guide the activities of this state institutions. So we strengthen them, we resource them, we ensure that there is limited interference in their operations and in their work. At the end of the day, we go forward. Because whatever is happening now, we need to tell ourselves the truth. There's too much interference in the operations of this state institution, and they are not properly resourced. So that should be something that we should look at. Then, when it comes to the deployment of the military, you see, we have the short-term approach, the medium-term approach, and the long-term approach. Where we are now, we need to use the military for now.
Okay. Well, we're struggling there with the connection to Godwin. We'll try to, reinitiate contact with him so that he can share his thoughts on the matter, whether it is the way to go, starting with the military once more. You have a quick reaction, Mr. Kwam. Very quick one.
What I was saying was not to revoke everything.
Godwin, just hold on a second.
Revoke everything. What I said was to audit all prospecting licenses and those who found themselves using it to do illegality must be revoked.
Okay.
That's what I was talking
so
about.
point clarified. Let me come back to Godwin. Godwin, can you hear me now? It appears we don't have...
I can hear you.
Please go ahead. Round up on the point you were making.
State institutions should be strengthened. Yeah, and then the military coming in, it's a short term. We have the short term, medium, and the long term approach.
Right.
Where we are now, military coming in is very important. But if they are not supervised properly, as Prof. Kwam said, and we allow them to do it the same way they did in the past, then at the end of the day, we'll come back to zero. Because most of them, there were serious allegations of corruption among them. People going in, not looking at the national interest, but their personal interest. So there should be some sort of supervision. And the Minerals Commission and the EPA should also be part of the process. Communities should also be part of the process. We as an association have said that we want this approach, the community enforcement approach, so that we'll be able to deal with this illegal activity at the doorstep of the community. That is the way to do.
Let me quickly
use the military over and over and over, and we are not getting results. But we get results in the short term, but in the long term, it's not sustainable.
Okay. Now, Dr. Hemming Tiamwa, you have also followed, this matter, and you've spoken about the law and even institutions, but let's look at this community approach that is being made mention of here. It has been said that sometimes you have these military officers go into these areas, they are not familiar with the terrain, and they miss out on certain things that they should be observing. What sort of collaboration do you want to see with DCEs, for example, with traditional leaders, with these military officers? Because from where we sit, we know that if they are not working in tandem, hand in glove, it's going to be problematic, isn't it?
Yeah, I think if we even look at how our cities or our towns are run, I think in most of our communities, you cannot just go in there and then sometimes just by entering a town, people know that you are an outsider, like you're not from that community, right? People can easily make you out. And so what it means is that we should use the people in the communities as the policing officers on this matter. We have chiefs, we have district chief executives, we have assemblymen, we have MPs, right? And so deploying those 200 military men after, let's say, seizing some excavators and stopping the issue intermittently, what next? The military deployed are not going to be in these communities forever, right? So that means that the people in their communities must be empowered to safeguard their lands and their water bodies. And the chiefs under whose jurisdiction all of these things are happening also must be held accountable, with respect to even the district chief executives and even the MPs. So
just to clarify, Doc, very quickly, when you say
we push the issue to a place where we know that, okay, for this district or for this area, these are the people in charge. And so for anything, we are holding them accountable to it. Then we can at least think of getting somewhere than waiting for the central government to deploy military people once a year or twice a year.
If you can hear me, Doc, when you talk about empowering community members, what exactly do you mean? What exactly must be done?
Yeah, so right now, let's say we are at a place where it's like we don't know, okay, who is involved in this illegal mining. Now we need to empower some of the community members. By empowering, I mean that either putting them in charge of monitoring, for example. And then,
so like a watchdog group, like a watchdog group? Is that what you're suggesting?
Something like that, yeah. And then the police, also work hand in hand with them. All right. So, for example, if we have these watchdogs in each communities, monitoring the farms, monitoring the water bodies, and there is also a lot of involvement of the district police officers and DCs and all of them. They are collaborating. Then it's like nobody is going to sleep and waking up to a surprise of persistent galamsey. Because there is that increased awareness, there is that increased monitoring on those sites. And like I was saying, you can't use, 200 military men to do this in all of these communities. You need those there to be doing the monitoring.
Right. And Mr. Kwam, who is in the studio, has some reactions to some of what has been said. What are your quick reactions?
Point of view.
What is the security point of view?
No, the point here is that as at now, our water bodies are under siege. And as such, the military men going there are to make sure that especially those using this on
Shangfangs and the others.
Yeah, on the river bodies must be taken away as soon as possible.
Right.
For us to get our water in a safe manner. That is one. Then two, you see, that is why I was approaching it with the causes. Because one, if you are able to tackle that one, then you come to the land. Are you getting my point? On the land, that is why I'm saying if you audit the prospecting and you revoke and you cancel, those who are doing illegal mining on those lands, by all means, government will take over those lands and nobody can go there to do illegal mining. Are you getting the point? Now here, it is somebody's livelihood. Are you getting the point? That is why there's a conscious effort from the government point of doing what is called community mining. In the case of the community mining, it is the same as the small scale mining, because we have small scale and we have large scale, depending on the size that you are going for. In the case of the community mining, you are involving those people within the community. Are you getting my point? Now, the reason why we had slight challenges was when interministerial committee leased with the DCs, and the people within the community decided to go and make their own site plans for the areas that they want to mine. And when they did that, by the time that it was submitted to Accra, for them to forward it to Minerals Commission to search, to know whether the place is free from encumbrance, people had started mining. Are you getting a point? So it is now the duty of Minerals Commission to make sure that we do proper community mining for them. Now, that's exactly what Minerals Commission has done. Now, we're having some challenges, just like what my sister was talking about. As at now, we were just having 8 Minerals Commission district offices, but currently they are 33. Again, if you're going to do illegal mining, then of course it means that maybe there are lands not available. Now about 5,000 kilometers, 5,000 square kilometers of land available for small scale alone, which can be used to do community mining. My brother, sometimes the reason why some of the chiefs, you see some sort of lackadaisical attitude from their side when it comes to the approach in dealing with the Galamsey issue, is that they feel, sometimes they feel peeved that when they are there, you see someone coming with a license. The person will tell you, it is for me. Then he starts mining because he feels that he has the power from probably Minerals Commission or whatever. But right now, as we speak, right, the community mining concept is the same as the small scale.
Right.
But with this, they get a designated area. Those people within the community, including the chiefs, the district assembly and everybody, are you getting the point, will have to monitor. Then they apply on the block, the small scale designated block. When they get it, they apply to Minerals Commission. In the process while they are applying, they will have to also apply to EP. Are you getting the point? After getting your license, even when you want to mine, you go to the district assembly to register for them to know that company A or company B is here. Now with this community mining concept, of course, it means that you have an ownership right. It belongs to company A or company B. So if you don't reclaim the land, are you getting the point? Right. If you mine in river bodies, when EPA come, they can monitor and may probably maybe prosecute you.
But you see, all these things that you are saying, this pot of matters you are bringing up, they are not strange. They are not things that we're now trying to. They've been with us.
No, there's the new approach.
They've still, no, but we've, even what you're talking about from the Minerals Commission, some of these have been tried in the past. They are not novel matters that we are
you talking about the community, the bottom-top approach?
Community mining is not a new thing, is it?
No, bottom-top approach.
Whether you want to call it bottom-top or whatever it is, some of these things that you are speaking of have been tried in the past and they have not worked. That is the point I am trying to make. What is the new strategy, that is going to ensure that these things work? Because in the end, we don't want it to be a lot of talk and go back to square one.
My brother, the new strategy with this one is that this one is to the doorsteps of the community. Are you getting the point? So the chiefs are involved. The district mining
the chiefs have always been involved.
But the reality is that they've been complaining because to them sometimes they feel that they are not being...
They've been sidelined.
Exactly.
Okay.
But with this concept, the district office of the Minerals Commission are the supervisory role. The district, I'm talking about the district mining, what do you call it? Department, when you go to the district assembly, are also part of it.
So just in summary, whether from national to regional to district and all of that, you are trying to say that now the approach must be bottom to top rather than top to bottom.
Exactly.
That is going to contribute to solve the problem. Let me come to you, Godwin. Now, there's another interesting aspect of this, especially when it comes to small-scale mining, and it has to do with the fact that we're going to bring a cessation to all these mining activities in natural reserves and all of that. But those who already have licenses, who are legitimately doing their work, are going to be allowed to continue. Yes. How do you feel about that? Is that not still burdening the system? Is that not still going to leave part of the problem hanging? What is your reaction? Do we have Godwin with us?
Yes. Let me first talk about the community enforcement approach. What we proposed as an association is that you have small-scale miners all over because they are working most of the remotest areas in this country. So we have the Small-Scale Miners Association, that's the task force being part, the chiefs, the assemblymen in the communities, opinion leaders coming together. And the Minerals Commission will make available the companies that are legitimate to work within these communities. So before you get in, if it's 6 companies, 10 companies, the community already knows that company A, B, C, and D are there. They are supposed to work. So anyone who will come outside those companies will not be allowed to work. So if somebody is moving these excavators and all that to the forest reserve, it will be easy for them to know because the chiefs, everyone knows the companies that are going to work. That is what we are not doing now. The district mining committees also should be a resource to also operate at the district level. This is the approach that as an association we are looking at. Sorry. To those who have licenses who are working now, the Minerals Commission already have their coordinates, they have them in the system. So monitoring them is not going to be difficult. And most of them are also association members, and we've used our monitoring teams to go around and collaborate with the Minerals Commission to ensure that they work well. Minerals Commission offices are now about 30, and they have the mining wardens. Minerals Commission is going to introduce the mining wardens, which are like the forestry, the way the forestry department have their wardens. And these people will be placed in the communities. So they will be working with the communities. And that is why we propose that the community-based approach in ensuring that this is done at the doorsteps can be realized. There will be feedback sessions also, that when these people are working and there are issues, you can quickly call the Minerals Commission offices or the EPA to ensure that people adhere to the compliance, or people adhere to this thing in their mining lease, what they should do within their lease. So this is something that is very novel that we want government to look at, or the Minerals Commission in the state institution to look at. But when it comes to community mining, community mining is not replacing small-scale mining. Community mining is a scheme under the small-scale mining to mainstream illegal miners into the mining fold, where community members who want to engage in mining can also be properly managed. So you look at the governance system. We have the Minerals Commission, the Nananum, the Minerals Commission, the Small Scale Miners Association. We are all part of it. But it's not replacing mining. It's like the cooperative mining. What we are announcing is if we allow only political people to lead, then we are going to have a problem, which we've had in the past, where chief executives are now, some of the chief executives are allocating, which is not their mandate. It's the mandate of the Minerals Commission to do that process. But most of these chief executives are just issuing permits for people just to go and mine without going through the law. Community mining is being managed by the Minerals and Mining Act. It's not different. It's a scheme. Let me re-emphasize. It's a scheme under the small-scale mining. And if we don't do it well, if we don't manage it properly, and we don't allow the Minerals Commission to ensure that these areas are launched, at the end of the day, we have another disaster. Because it will be more political, and you have party people who says, no, we've got, our government is in power, so we are going to mine, and they will never follow the laws. And it will be very difficult for enforcement to be done by the state institution. But going forward now, what we've seen with the new minister is, it says, look, you need to do it right. Whether you're a party member or not, you need to go through the process, acquire the license, and ensure that you do your mining and do it properly. So it's early days yet, but we as an association, we are going to collaborate with the ministries, the agencies, to ensure that this sector is rid out of this menace of illegal mining activity. You saw some pictures. The pictures that you saw are our task force, the National Association of Small Scale Miners, our task force, where some of the pictures that you showed. We understand the terrain because for the past 5-6 years, we've been in there to ensure that these illegal dredges are off from the pictures that you are showing. This is the task force of the association. We've gone around the country, and the association have given them some sort of resources to ensure that these dredges, because it's our main target. If we don't have clean water, this picture, for instance, is one of the water company, their plants at Patresu, which the association task force went there to talk to the staff at the place to see how best we'll be able to help. In Takwa and all that, the association task force is all over. So we are prepared to collaborate. These Chamfan guys or the Tototo guys, we need to do a law to take them off. Because if we don't take them off, they are using mercury on the river bodies. The turbidity level is becoming higher and higher. And most of these waters that will be used will not be something good for drinking and even for irrigation and all that. So please, let's just be serious on this issue. Let's take these budgets out and ensure that we protect our forest reserves. Because the water, most of these rivers take their source from there. And if the cover is removed, at the end of the day, we'll continue to have high turbidity.
Point well made, Godwin. Let me hear from Doc at this point in time before we wrap up on a very important question about the way forward. It's interesting because we've heard from the Chinese ambassador in recent times, and they have also been in. When we talk shangfangs, of course, we know how they were introduced into the country. And he has said that if it weren't with the compliance of chiefs and leaders, the Chinese wouldn't even know where to go to mine. We also know that in recent times, the UN Secretary of State has been interacting with some countries about, well, the growth of China in Africa. You find yourself in the United States right now. What do you think we ought to be doing to the foreign elements? And mind you, it's not just the Chinese. Those in the sub-region are coming into the country. How do we address the problem from that end to stem the tide of the influx of people coming into Ghana to come and engage in this sort of activity? What do you feel we should do?
Thanks, Ivan. I think that part or that twist of this whole illegal mining issue is one that is, how do I put it, a big, do I say slap in our faces? I mean, as a country, I think we've not done ourselves good service by really protecting our lands and our water bodies from illegal foreign intrusion. And it's unfortunate that, like the ambassador, the Chinese ambassador said, no Chinese really knows, where gold is. And I think as part of some of my submissions, I even said that in our local communities, if, although I'm a Ghanaian, if I go there right now, most of them will identify me as a foreign person. I mean, somebody who does not reside in that community, right? So if we even think of a Chinese, for example, it will be very hard for me to believe that there could be a chief and an assemblyman or community, or let's say a chief, because, he is the, let's say, owner of the land. I'll be surprised, or it will be very hard for me to understand or accept that there are chiefs who would say they are unaware of Chinese intrusion in their lands, or, Chinese involvement in this whole illegal mining, that they are unaware of their entry, for example. They know, they see them. I think some of them will even pay homage to them because their Ghanaian counterparts will most likely go take them to the palaces and, all of that stuff. So we have Ghanaians who are complicit in all of this issue. And it's unfortunate that we find ourselves at this point in time, because I think in my opinion letter or article that I wrote recently, I was like, just like similar to slavery, where the foreigners came, but then there were some enabling environments from our own people.
So the question is, what do we do? What do we do?
Yeah. So right now, what we need to do, back to the issue of enforcing our laws. Now, small-scale mining is supposed to be the reserve of Ghanaians, right? That's what the law says, right? So why do we have foreigners in it? We need to let them pack their stuff. I mean, the foreigners who are involved, if any Ghanaian has a foreign partner involved in small-scale mining, the law should work. Maybe the person can lose their license. So if you're a Ghanaian and you want to do small-scale mining, you should use your Ghanaian partners. Okay. Otherwise, you lose your license.
Okay. So this is the final bite. I'm going to address this question to all three of you, but you have a minute each to respond, so coordinate your responses appropriately. I'll start with you, Doc. Mr. President has said, and I quote, "I intend to do everything within my power in this second term to bring this Galamsey menace to a conclusion in Ghana." We heard what Mr. President said during his first term. How convinced are you that this time round we're going to get it right? 1 minute.
Okay, I would say that at this point, considering that we've heard similar statements before, it'll be hard to categorically say that, let's say, the results are going to be different. But I always want to maintain some hope. Some sense of hope. So I want to hope that, this time the president is way much committed to, end Galamsey than
let's
at the
do it
time.
This way. Let's use a very simple measuring system. On a scale of 1 to 10, how convinced are you? Let's just use that. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how convinced are you?
I would say 50-50.
So 5 over 10. Okay.
So 5.
All
yeah.
right. Thank you, Doc. Let me come now to Godwin. Godwin, so I want you to address the same concern. You are in the industry, looking at the dynamics and the way this has started. On a scale of 1 to 10, how convinced would you be that this would actually get us the results we seek and protect and cleanse our water bodies?
I would say 6. I would give 6. And, the president has said it. He cannot do it alone. When we think it's only the president that can do it alone, then it's a shared responsibility.
Right.
And every Ghanaian should know that the issue of environmental degradation, water pollution is a threat to our existence as a people. And we shouldn't wait for only the president to lead. We should help him and ensure that it's done. And people who have their personal interests, people who are in positions of influence, whose personal interests overrides the national interests, should bow their head in shame, because they are part of the troubles that we are having in this country.
Thank you, Godwin.
And they should change their attitudes.
All right, thank you, Godwin. 6 out of 10 for you, 5 out of 10 for Doc. What would be, you've been there, you've done that, former board member of the Minerals Commission. When you look at what we are seeing now, the consultative meeting and what we are seeing with the deployment, you have a minute, by the way. What is your assessment out of 10?
My brother, I would say about 75%.
7.5 out of 10. Okay.
The reason why I'm saying that is there has been a lot of vigorous policies addressing this issue. You cannot do it in a day. But currently, I am of the view that DC is in charge of the mining communities must be assessed based on their key performance using their KPI, key performance indicators.
Right.
If you are a DC and within your vicinity, there's some sort of galamsey going on there,
right,
and you don't report, or you don't report to your regional minister, who is the head of SEC, for them to arrest those people,
right,
then of course you are part of it.
So you must be held
responsible.
responsible.
Fired. Yes. Okay. When we do this, definitely, I know for sure that it's going to end.
Right. So we've discussed, the entirety, the basket of issues. Well, not all of them, but quite a number of them. We wait to see. We are all involved. It's not just maybe the president or those bodies that we've been interacting with this morning. We are all involved, from chiefs to political leaders to religious leaders to all of us. Where do we go from here? Well, we shall decide. But thank you very much, those who have joined us on this conversation this morning. Joseph Kwam, who is seated here with me, former member of parliament for Manso and Kwanta. He also happens to be a former board member of the Minerals Commission. Godwin Ama is General Secretary of the Small Scale Miners Association. And all the way from the United States, Dr. Juliet Ohiming Ntiamwa, environmental engineer. Juliet, by the way, my name is Benjamin. And it's been a pleasure interacting with you. So, ladies, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. We take a breather here. We'll be back on the AM show. Welcome back on the AM show. Think about the United States, nations, I should say, and many of these intergovernmental organizations. They have youth wings. Now, have you ever considered what it could be if we built up our youth to take up key positions in our country? We can talk of the judiciary. Well, there are systems involved, to the executive and even the legislature. Well, there is Ghana's youth president. It's a conversation with the current youth president, Evans Hockey, as he shares what he's achieved during his tenure. He'll be getting into that. Of course, there is the TV program which airs on Joy Prime as well. Mr. Hockey, a very good morning to you, sir.
Very good morning. And thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. We also have joining the conversation Joshua Kwesi Tete, who is Youth Member of Parliament for Afram Plains South. Mr. Tete, if you can hear me, a very good morning to you too. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Well, thank you both. Now, coming to you first, Mr. Hockey, you as president, you've been at the helm of affairs. You are actually rounding up on your term. But here's something interesting, especially as young people. We often, lambast our leaders and we call for more. Do tell us about how much you've been able to achieve within this period that you've been Ghana's youth president. What has the experience been like? And what basically are some of the things that you celebrate as youth leader of this country?
Thank you. And I think that is a very important question that we all have to answer. It is very important to note that during my tenure of office, I have been able to engage with quite Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Great. So during my time, or within the time frame, I've had the opportunity to work with quite a number of our youth in the diaspora and even in our country. We have been embarking on what we call the employability skills development training, which is going nationally. We have engaged quite a number of our youth who, by reasons of the pandemic, have fallen short in their economic recovery, and have also made sure that we have connected the essential ingredients they need to succeed in the work environment, and also in their side of going into entrepreneurship. It's been a very fantastic journey because now you get people to talk to, you get connections, and most importantly, you get the vast responsibility on your shoulders to be a role model to others. And I think it's been a fantastic experience so far. Connecting it with, talking about the positions of our leaders and what we have, we expect of them. I think usually when you are in the positions like this, you begin to gather feedback from a lot of people, because the direction you're going is not alone. You would need people to guide you. So in terms of, the principles of leadership, is more about mentorship and guidance that I've gotten from quite a number of top people in government, and also my own network, and they have guided me throughout this journey.
Can you name some of these people who have been your mentors and guided you on this journey? Are there any you'd like to celebrate?
Dr. Baba Sayuti is one of the people who is actually taking me through the process. Some of them I've not spoken through to them before, but I have also been following their leads and also mapping up some of the things that they are doing. And Kojo Oponkroma is one of the typical example of people that I've been following keenly. Apart from that, the president himself has also been one of my strong pillars that I emulate anytime I seek to engage like minds like myself. And because of his composure and how he's able to align feedback with progressive trends in the country, it's been fantastic.
Let me interact with Mr. Tate now. Now, you are a youth member of parliament for Afram Plains South. Before I get into what the experience has been like, tell me a bit about your constituency. What is it like? What do you think stands out in Afram Plains South?
All right, so once again, let me use this opportunity to say that actually youth for Afram North and not Afram Plains.
Oh, okay. All right, so Afram Plains North instead. Our apologies.
Afram Plains North. Our apologies. So moving on to your question, I would like to make it known that Afram Plains North actually is one of the largest districts across the country, and then the land is almost covering 1/3 of it, with almost 70% being covered by water, which actually makes the habitats scattered mostly on the islands located in the district, the Dwarf and the Dija Island. So the place is being shared with the Volta region, that is to Ake to Bando in the Volta region.
Mr. Tete, or the Member of Parliament, Youth Member of Parliament for Afram Plains North. It's unfortunate that the connection is not allowing us to hear him as well as we would have wanted. But so, Your Excellency, I think I might as well call you, Mr. Hoki. Now, you started talking about that employability skills drive, and I just had you hold it there because I wanted us to get into it a bit more. Usually governments would put out figures about those they have aided to get employment and all of that. How many people would you say this drive has empowered, this entrepreneurial drive? Do you have any facts, figures, numbers to share with us? Mr. Hoki, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Did you get the question?
The project is slated to connect close to 18,000 people across the country. And so far, we have been able to connect up to about 6 regions, 18,000 youth across the country. And we have reached 6 regions for now. Among the 6 regions, we have connected to close to 7,000, and it is imperative to also note that the enthusiasm that these youth are using to join the program that we have rolled out, it's fantastic. It tells you that people now want to set up their own businesses, manage their own affairs, and take responsibility. And this is where I would urge the government to consider making it a keen interest to supporting and giving platforms such as what YLP has done to quite a number of our youth who are also interested in becoming very good politicians and also delve into governance in future. And even more so entrepreneurship, which is taking our country to its needed perspective. And so it's been so nice how these youth are able to come in within and understand the concept of entrepreneurship, you marvel some of the ideas that some of these people have and how
do share some of those ideas that they've brought to bear.
Their environment.
Do share some of those ideas that they've been sharing with you, those who are partaking in this program. Any that have, particularly caught your attention?
Yes. So, for example, in the northern region, where we engaged people in 3 districts, Sagnerigo, Savelugu, and Tolong, there were these 2 ladies who had the intention of not only, becoming agripreneurs, but also becoming businesswomen. They had this fantastic idea to market the produce from their farms. And surprisingly, these people are not even highly educated. They have this local concept that appeals to the market so that whatever you need in terms of food stuff, in terms of some of the things that you need at home, you are able to connect directly with you. Wherever you are, they do delivery with an excellent customer service package that they also give. And they do it in a very local way. And that's so fantastic, even though they don't have that high level of education. And I think that these people, if you regularize their idea, if you want to add some form of nutrients in marketing and business to them, I tell you, they will make progress, and they would never think of coming down to Accra to find greener pastures. They can make it wherever they find themselves.
And that's a very important point you make. It's something that we've been trying to achieve, to even, stop this rural-urban drift that we've seen in the country. Because if we're able to create jobs in the different regions, in the different districts and all of that, it would actually stop the influx of people, all of them coming into the major cities to look for jobs. But I'm going to put you on the spot a bit. And I think it's crucial that we do this, because we do that to our leaders. And you are a future leader. You started on the path already. These 7,000 that you mentioned across 6 regions, is there a tally of them? I mean, can you give us, if we approached you and said, Mr. Youth President, you've spoken of 7,000 people whom you've aided to get into these entrepreneurial drives, would you be able to produce names for us? It's just a bit of a tricky spot I'm putting you in, but a spot of accountability as well. What's your response?
I can tell you, we can produce fact, we can produce data, and we can produce up to a point to know where they live. Now, the structures that we put together to get this project running is more of sustainability, more than just a one-whip drive on the project, because we do not want to lose sight of their progress. And if you want to actually consider today's best project, then you have to get a very solid sustainability plan. And that is what guides us to actually drive our project forward. So we can give you details of it. We can give you details of, their contact. Maybe what we cannot get for now is perhaps their email addresses because of their locations and because of how they relate. But we can give you data of how we have engaged with them and the progress each of them is making. One other thing is that we have field officers who actually have a timely visit to these people. And this project stretched to a 12 months schedule. So these field officers are expected or mandated to be with them, guide them when they need support, and also give them some form of motivation and encouragement to still perceive, be successful at whatever they have decided to take up. So I can give you data. I can give you more information on these 7,000 that we've been able to reach so far.
To your elbow. If you can do this even at this stage, then who knows what you could do if the country were given to you in real life. But let's also have Kobe Fabian, who is coordinator of the GYP, that is Ghana's youth president. And there's a lot more coming up because these are outgoing officers. We have incoming officers, and the show continues to be aired on Joy Prime. Tell us a bit more about what to expect, how these incoming officers are going to be appointed and all of that. Give us the whole story.
So thank you very much for the opportunity this morning, and greetings to His Excellency Evans Adam Hockey and Joshua Tete. I must say that in the last 1 year since they were elected, they've done a great job. This Saturday, we are starting the new journey for a new set of leaders. Now, basically, what's going to happen is there's going to be 12 weeks of leadership competition for the next crop of leaders who would be taking over from Evans and his team. There are going to be episodes where they will be challenged to present alternative ideas on 10 ministries. So we've constituted 3 model governments. So there'll be a presidential candidate with his ministers designate and MPs and diplomats with their manifesto, and they'll be competing against another government and another government. So there's 3 different governments. So the challenge is basically on the Make Ghana Great Again manifesto, alternative ideas of young people that can transform and change this country to make it great again. So these 15 weeks we're talking about, which obviously will start on Joy Prime and will be shown, in other affiliated multimedia platforms, will be a leadership competition of these aspiring youth presidents, youth ministers, and youth MPs and diplomats. So ultimately, these judges will score them on their manifesto. They will also need to be able to have the skill to engage the general public and get them to vote for them. So it is not only about having this, the nicest document that speaks about some policy ideas, but you should be able to sell the idea to your followers or to the citizens and get the citizens to buy into it. So these are the 2 pillars within which the judges will be assessing them on. Now, at the end of the 15 weeks, there is going to be our annual awards event, which will award the potential winners. That is the Millennium Youth Impact Awards. It is part of the Ghana Youth President journey. So this award will assess who had the highest score as a president of the 3 governments, who had the highest score as a finance minister, who had the highest score as the education minister, gender, children, and social protection, so on and so forth.
Right.
Within the 15 weeks journey. And then we will declare the next Ghana's youth president, the next youth minister of finance, energy, education, and so on and so forth. So that is how the journey is going to go. Now, every episode within the 15 weeks has a theme. Now, for example, I can tell you that the first episode theme is on the COVID. So they'll be looking, they would have to present ideas on how can Ghana come out of this COVID? What are the ideas they can bring forward? And what are the policies that government should look at to enforcing agencies that are working around the health sector to make Ghana be able to emerge out of the COVID?
Okay.
So 2 will deal with Galamsey. So under the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology, within the competition, those that are youth ministers of environment will be coming up with how can we fight Galamsey and come out of it? How can we protect our water bodies and make sure that water is available and can be sustained into the future? Okay, and then you go into episode 3, which will talk about, the theme is the Made in Ghana Week, which they will be now coming up.
So one thing is clear, Kobe. One thing is very clear, that
local businesses.
You have quite a structure for the 15-week bid, and it will be very interesting following all 15 weeks and what is going to happen. But it is also, very important that you're rolling out the next group of leadership, from president to members of parliament and others, even diplomats as well, who are all youth and who are going to be grooming themselves for the future. This is a discourse that we're going to continue, not just here, but on Joy Prime, live on television as well. But at this point, I'd just like to say a very big thank you to you, Kobe Fabian, Coordinator, Ghana's Youth President, Evans Hoki, who is actually the Ghana Youth President, and you will be signing off soon, handing over. And we also have Mr. Tete, who is the Member of Parliament. Thank you all for joining the conversation. We'll take a breather. When we return, we'll get into the bit about former Special Prosecutor Martin Amidou. He has his latest epistle out, and it punches some holes in, some of the discussions we've been having with regard to the appointment of a new Special Prosecutor and even interests when it comes to Ejapa royalties. All that you need to know when we return on the AM Show. Well, welcome back. And as promised, we get into that bit there. Quite a lot to talk about, Mamovi.
Yeah. It's a 3-page article that's been released by former Special Prosecutor Martin Amidou. We will take you to myjoyonline.com, and then we will hear comments or commentary that have come up after the release of this article written by Mr. Martin Amidou, essentially asking not to be defamed in what he said was the propaganda to nominate a new special prosecutor. So if you look at the article closely, and we will try and read the article for you, what the angle that we've picked on My Joy Online with the headline reads, I await to see how independently corruption cases will be handled by new surrogate special prosecutor. And he uses the word also because of the establishment that he's made in this article in terms of who Kisi Ejabing is to the Attorney General, and then also Mr. Gabi Otri Dakon. So this article was triggered because of some publications by Asase Online, and roping him in, essentially given some background as to why he resigned as special prosecutor, and he's been very unhappy with that. It sounds like that's what triggered this article, from my own interpretation when I read it, pulling him out and getting him to rights. So let's see, just a bit of a second so that I can pull the article, and then we can share it with you here on our show. But you've also been following Ben, you've also been following what Mr. Martin Amidou put out today by way of the 3-page document with this article. What are people saying?
So it's quite a lot that people are saying on the back of this. Some feel that this exposes certain loopholes in the entire enterprise to appoint a new special prosecutor. Of course, we also know that per the Act, the relevant Act, there are some 6 months within which a new special prosecutor must be brought back into office or put into office. Now, we know that Martin Amidou left office in November last year, and it's some 5 months since he left office. So that process must commence. The problem of most people is the supposed ties with this person who has been nominated, put forward by the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, and his supposed ties to some bigwigs within
the NPP or the current administration. And that is what a lot of people have been talking about on social media. And of course, now with Martin Amidu himself coming through with certain matters and even speaking about not being defamed by some of the people in administration, it paints quite a picture. Interestingly, he also mentions Japa royalties, but I know you have details of that.
Yeah, okay. So just like I said, this was triggered because he mentions it a lot in this article. This was triggered by a publication, and he goes on to say Asase Radio appears to have been so bent on pressurizing the president to announce their preferred choice as a special prosecutor that it forgot that the nomination letter by the Attorney General was addressed only to the president. How then did the nomination letter of a new special prosecutor come into the public domain to make the rounds in the press? And he goes on also to establish the link between this name, Kisia Jabeng, who's been nominated by the Attorney General as special prosecutor. He goes on to establish the connection, where he says that Ghanaian and international public, its surrogate and nominee special prosecutor in the published letter is a personal friend and classmate of the Attorney General and the owner of Asase Radio, all of whom attended the University of Ghana's Faculty of Law and Ghana Law School. The independence of the special prosecutor from the direction or control of any person or authority in the performance of the functions of his office are the operative statutory words for the nomination of an impartial special prosecutor, not a word with an ISM, and that's in quotes. He goes on also, he makes a comment on the back of what Sir Sam Jonah has said, and I just want to quickly move to that paragraph where he says, I read Sir Sam Jonah's expose on impunity, corruption, and other isms, militating against the fight against corruption in government and the economy before reading the series of propaganda publications on its preferred and proposed new special prosecutor. No impartial observer can disagree with Sir Sam Jonah's reflections except beneficiaries of the system who loot from the public purse. The fight against corruption, he says, in Ghana has been and is still in state capture. Mark my words, he says. And these are all part of the article.
Has been and still is in state capture.
And he ends by saying, by all means, let anybody root for his or her preferred special prosecutor as an insurance against prosecution for corruption in Ghana, but leave me out of the propaganda. I am honoring an undertaking by my silence in not commenting on public affairs. Stop tempting me to speak by the defaming propaganda against me. It will not be in anyone's interest. So this is just a tip, I guess, from the ending. I mean, like, I haven't even started yet, essentially, is what he's saying. I'm just giving you a warning.
Right.
Yeah.
So quite a bit to digest, and it would be good to read the entire 3-page, piece that, he's, when it comes to his epistles,
he writes more than 3 pages.
So he's done 3. I think this is just to send some warning shots. And I suppose if there's a response, then, he has the multiplier effect when it comes to epistles. So we might see, whatever the response is, we might see multiples of that. But he raises some urgent issues in there that we really ought to be looking at with regard to the position of special prosecutor and who becomes the next special prosecutor. Like I said earlier in the morning in the course of the news review, Kisia Jabeng is someone I know personally. He is someone who has taught me before, and he is a affable personality and all of that. But that is not what the office requires. There are certain requirements, and I would say that whoever fills that position should be subjected to strict analysis, especially on the back of what has happened with Martin Amidu. I think whoever else we put into that position ought to be vetted carefully, and I'm using vetting not just from the standpoint of a parliamentary process or something, but carefully scrutinized so that he or she, in this case a he, can do the job, will be the apt person for the job, and can do the job. That's all we need as a country.
All right, it's still very much a developing conversation, but this is where we have to end our show, to be continued on other shows. And we will certainly see you tomorrow, God willing. Bye for now.
You have a lovely day.